Sponsors of Midway 2018. Last year when I did this race in the threes, I got caught behind a crash on the last lap. Kind of just pedaled it in from there. This year I was hoping to do a little bit better. I missed my clip in initially, but I'm able to get it quickly and I stay near the front of the pack. The team went into this race with the plan of working for our teammate Dustin, who was in contention for the 2-race Omnium. If there was a break, we knew that we had to ideally have him in it. And if it came down to a field sprint, then we knew that we had to be lined up to give him the best lead out that we could. The pace is high right now, but it's pretty smooth. And as the group slows slightly, I float to the front and try to make an early attack. I get a little bit of space through the last true corners, so I keep the pace up. Another rider manages to bridge to me, but in doing so, he's brought the whole field with him, so as he pulls to the front, I sit up and soft pedal. Because we had 6 riders in this race, I was able to move back into the group when I needed to recover without having to worry that our team would not have a presence at the front of the race. This becomes pretty key later in the race, as I wouldn't have been able to put in the efforts I did if I didn't have amazing teammates. With the race starting to slow down, I take this chance to attack again. Unfortunately, because I do it so far from the front, the move gets called out and shut down pretty quickly. As we cross the line, the bell is rung for an Omnium point sprint slap. I try to stay on the rider in front of me and just hope that Dustin is on my wheel or somewhere near the front to contest the sprint. Those who are contesting for the sprint points come around me through the last corner, and as they sprint up the road, I'm trying to surf wheels until I find this rider in orange to follow all the way up to the lead riders. The rider in orange kept his pace up as we passed the leaders and I began to struggle a bit. This opened up a large gap, and I sit up even more as the group comes through because I notice that Hassan is up the road with a few other riders. They have a decent gap, and if they can work together, they might be able to stay off the front. 2 riders decide to try and bridge the gap. While I initially surge to jump on their wheels, I sit up quickly as I realize the gap is staying steady even with those 2 riders trying to bridge. The Simet rider sees his chance to bridge and so he attacks, but all it ends up doing is causing the group to surge and for the field to come back together. As it does, I move to the front to try and keep things a bit more under our team's control. With the field calmed down a bit, I rotate to the middle of the pack again to recover, letting Dustin, Matt, and Brian move to the front to monitor any moves that may come. Coming through this corner, the pace is high, but not completely unbearable. The field was kind of strung out, but we slow up a bit. As we do, Dom from Wolfpack launches a monster attack up the left side, and a few riders try to match it. As we come through the first 2 corners, there's still a decent gap, and I know Dustin is on my wheel here. With a tailwind aiding me, I put in a solid effort to bring those riders back and tow Dustin along with me. As we reach the front riders, Dustin and Brian manage to get a small gap and head up the road. I start to soft pedal a little bit to try and let their gap grow and to encourage others to waste their energy to close the gap. Dom pulls through with a monster Watts and brings the gap back down to 0. 1 lap later, there is another move up the inside. It's pretty quickly responded to, and as the lead group begins to slow, I move to the inside of the course and put in a small effort, which was really just to try and string out the field a little bit to prevent some more attacks. But as I go through the first 2 corners of the course, I realize I'm now off the front alone, and I have a pretty decent gap. Having been off the front for almost a whole lap at this point, I decide I'm committed and begin to push myself to keep the pace high enough to stay away. About 2 minutes later from my initial attack, 3 riders bridge up to me and we come through the finish line with 6 to go. I know that our gap is beginning to grow thanks to my teammates on the sidelines who are giving us the gap times. This is it. I've initiated the move and now we've got to make it stick. We're working together pretty well and I'm feeling that we've done it and that we're going to stay away. I know Jared from Triple X, and he and I have been in breaks together before. I encourage him to keep it strong and steady as we take our pulls. At this point, One more rider who had been in no man's land managed to bridge up to us and has joined our pace line, making the break 5 riders. On the back half of 4 to go, I've done a significant amount of work in the break, and I'm getting a bit tired. This causes me to open up a gap to try and rotate to the back of the group and get the others to pull through. It takes them a minute or so to do so, but eventually I get a few seconds of respite. I pull off the front again, and 2 riders pull through. Jared is on the rivet and lets a massive gap open up because of it. I give him some encouragement, and Jeff, our 5th rider, fills in the gap. We come through with 3 to go. Coming across the line with 2 to go, I had a moment where I knew that the break was going to stick, and I felt really strong all of a sudden. My confidence grew, and I knew for sure that I at least had it in me to grab a podium spot from this group of 5. We finally come through for the bell lap, and I'm feeling really good. I move to the front knowing that I can take a wide line out of the second corner to hopefully get one of the riders behind me to pull through. This ends up working out even better than I could have hoped for, and 2 riders come through for that last straightaway. I know that I still have 2 riders behind me and that the sprint is going to be into a headwind, so I just sit in to try and recover and conserve as much energy as I can. We come out of the final corner, and the 2 riders in front of me ratchet their pace up, but it doesn't seem exceedingly fast or punchy like I was expecting for the final sprint. A few seconds later, I decide that now is the time for me to make my move, especially since the 2 riders in front of me aren't making their moves. It's kind of early, and I know that Jared is gassed, so I think that I can hold the sprint to the line. I stand up and give it everything I have left. I was so committed to this break, and I'll be damned if I wasn't going to get something out of it. I kept my head down and I just pedaled as hard as I could until I crossed the line. And I was able to do it. I won the race. I was incredibly happy with my performance this race, and not just because I won, but because I was able to race with my amazing teammates, and I made moves when I needed to, and that I was the one to initiate the breakaway and then also win. Again, I really have to give a huge shout out to my team this race. Hassan, Matt, Rob, Brian, Sean, and Dustin did a ton of work and allowed the breakaway to get as big of a gap as it did. Hopefully I can continue this success throughout the season. I'm feeling much stronger than last year, and this result was a huge boon to my confidence. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like. If you want to see more from me, go ahead and click subscribe.